Today, we are diving deep into one of the biggest, most intense battles happening in technology right now. We're talking about the war for the future of artificial intelligence, and it's being fought on tiny, microscopic battlefields made of silicon. And look, this isn't just about who makes a faster computer. This is about who is going to build the very foundation for a revolution that's already worth trillions of dollars. So let's break it down. And that brings us to the big question, right? In this absolutely high-stakes race between two of the heaviest hitters in the industry, who is really pulling ahead? Well, the answer is a lot more complex, and frankly, way more fascinating than you might think. So in one corner, you've got Intel, the undisputed champion of the PC and server world for decades. I mean, for the longest time, the name Intel was computing. And in the other corner, you have AMD, the classic underdog, the challenger who has spent years, and I mean years, just chipping away at that lead. But now, in this new age of AI, they are making their most powerful move yet. To really get what's going on, you have to start where the big money is, and that's the data center. Think of this as the engine room of the entire AI revolution. Every single large language model, every cloud service, it all runs right here. And this is where we see the first really dramatic signs of a major power shift. Just look at this number. The speed here is what's absolutely stunning. For the 2025 fiscal year, AMD's data center revenue didn't just grow, it exploded. A massive 32% increase. Now, this wasn't just some small jump. This was a statement. It was driven by unbelievable demand for their APIC server chips and their Instinct AI accelerators. Okay, now let's look at the champion. In that same period, Intel's data center business grew by just 5%. Now, don't get me wrong, growth is growth, but it just pales in comparison to the challenger's insane pace. And the critical part is, this slower growth was because of their own manufacturing issues and a market that was shifting its money to the exact kind of AI chips that AMD is knocking out of the park. And this chart, wow, it just tells the whole story in a single picture. Just look at the difference between those two bars. On the left, that's AMD making an aggressive land grab in the single most profitable part of the market. And on the right, you have a giant who seems to be struggling just to keep pace. This is the growth story that has investors so excited about AMD. But revenue growth is only half the story. The really mind-blowing development is right here in this table. In 2025, for the very first time, AMD's data center business didn't just grow faster, it actually became more profitable than Intel's. Look at that, $3.6 billion in operating profit for AMD versus $3.4 billion for Intel. This isn't just about who's selling more anymore, it's about who is running a leaner, meaner, more profitable machine, right in the heart of the AI boom. Now, this war isn't just being fought in some far-off cloud. The second major battlefront is opening up right here, on our desks. They're calling it the AI PC, and the entire industry thinks this is a generational shift. The big idea of moving AI work from the cloud directly onto your personal computer. And just like in the data center, the numbers here are just staggering. AMD's client division, the one that makes these new AI PC chips, saw its revenue rocket up by 51%. And in that same time frame, Intel's client division, their traditional fortress, actually saw its revenue decline by 3%. It's an absolutely incredible reversal of fortunes. Okay, but we've got to put this in perspective. Let's be really clear here. Intel's PC business is still an absolute behemoth. It's more than double the size of AMD's in terms of actual dollars. They are the giant in the room. But, and this is a huge but, all the momentum, all the growth, and all the hype around the next big thing, the AI PC, is being captured by AMD. So this timeline shows us it's really like a high-stakes chess match. You see, AMD moved first. They got an early lead by being the first company to put a dedicated AI engine, or NPU, right into their chips. But Intel is not just sitting there. Their big bet, their comeback play, is all tied to a revolutionary new way of making chips called 18A, and they think it's going to let them leapfrog AMD entirely. The next year or so is going to be absolutely critical. And this really gets us to the heart of the story, because this isn't just a fight over who has the better product this quarter. It's a clash of two fundamentally different corporate strategies. The way these two giants have chosen to build the future could not be more different. So on the left, you've got AMD's strategy. They are a fabless company. So think of them like brilliant architects. They design the most incredible skyscraper, but then they hire a specialized construction company, in this case the Taiwanese giant TSMC, to actually build it. And on the right, you have Intel's IDM 2.0 strategy. They're the master builder who not only designs the skyscraper, but they also own the quarry, the steel mill, and all the construction crews. They do absolutely everything in-house. And here's the catch. Both of these strategies come with enormous risks. For AMD, their entire fate is basically tied to one key partner, TSMC. Any disruption there, whether it's politics or just production problems, could be devastating. For Intel, though, the risk is arguably even bigger. They're spending billions upon billions of dollars to build these new factories. If their new 18A and 14A technologies get delayed or just don't work as promised, the entire company's future's on the line.
Okay, so we've laid out the battlegrounds, we've laid out the strategies, so where do things stand right now? Let's look at the scorecard. How does the market, how do the financials actually see this fight? Let's break down the final numbers.
And this scorecard is just so telling. First, look at gross margin. That's basically a measure of pure profitability. AMD is at a healthy 50%, while Intel is down at 34.8%, partly because of the huge costs of their big turnaround plan. Then there's asset turnover. That shows how efficiently you use your stuff to make money. AMD's flexible model is nearly twice as efficient. And finally, the market's verdict. Investors value AMD at more than double the value of Intel, even though Intel technically still makes more money overall. You know, this quote from the source analysis just sums it all up perfectly. AMD is in a high-growth harvesting period. Intel is in a high-risk transformation period. AMD is cashing in. They're reaping the rewards of years of smart design and solid execution. Intel, on the other hand, is right in the middle of a painful, incredibly expensive, and super high-risk transformation. They're betting the entire farm on rebuilding their manufacturing dominance. And that leaves us with this final, massive question. Intel is making one of the biggest, boldest bets in modern corporate history. They are trying to pull off a turnaround of epic proportions. Now, if they succeed with their 18A process and the tech that comes after, it could be the greatest comeback story in tech for a decade. But if they fail, it could mark the final chapter for a once unbeatable empire. The next 24 months are going to decide everything. The analysis we went through in this explainer was based on data from HDIN Research. So for those of you who need professional-grade, in-depth reports on this market and others, you can contact them directly.